Hello, good afternoon. This is Blue Team's Asian American and Pacific Islander presentation. This presentation is presented by Alex, Valerie, and Amy. Asian American and Pacific Islander history. The first big surge of Asian Americans occurred in the mid-18,000s. This is when many Asian Americans started immigrating over to America in hopes for a better life and to find work. Um, Many Asian Americans picked up dangerous work, mining. This labor was done for very small pay, and there was a law made that prevented employers from recruiting Asians to work. Chinese immigrants were now being targeted, and the Chinese Exclusion Act was signed. In 1885, all children were entitled to public education, and in September 1885, white coal miners attacked Chinese laborers, killing 28 Chinese miners and injuring 15. When did the first big surge of Asian Americans occur? In May 1887, there were seven white horse thieves that ambushed a group of Chinese miners. This was called the 1887 Hell's Canyon Massacre, and all 34 miners were murdered by the seven white horsemen. In 1910, Angel Island opened, and it served as the main point of entry for Asian immigrants. This led to a surge in Asian Americans coming and immigrating to America. In 1917, as a direct result of that, Congress passed the Immigration Act of 1917, which banned many Asians from immigrating to America. It was also done as a measure to stop Asian population in America. Based off what I read, they specifically targeted women so that they wouldn't come here and repopulate with the Asian men that were in America. In 1941, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. This was a very unfortunate event, and it led to most Japanese Americans and just any Japanese immigrants, anyone that was Asian, to be targeted and put into internment camps because America believed that the Japanese in America were spies for the Japan for Japan's government. Um, when they were let out, President Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which gave every surviving victim $20,000, and it served as an apology from the US government. In 1965, the Delano grape strike started, and this led to Asian Americans pairing with Hispanic Americans and Hispanic immigrants and joining a union with Cesar Chavez to fight unfair pay cuts. What was the main point of entry for Asian immigrants in 1910? What was the Civil Liberties Act of 1988? In October 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Immigration and Nationality Act into law. This stopped harsh immigration policies that didn't let Asian immigrants into America, which led to another surge of Asian immigrants immigrating to America. In March 1979, President Jimmy Carter proclaimed a week in May dedicated to Asian/Pacific Americans. In 1992, Congress passed a law permanently designating May as a full month for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. What year did President Lyndon B. Johnson sign the Immigration and Nationality Act into law?
On this slide, I'll be talking about the diversity within Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. When people hear AAPI, they sometimes think it's one big group, but it actually includes over 30 different countries and ethnic groups. Some of these are Chinese, Filipino, Indian, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, Samoan, and Native Hawaiian. Each of these groups have their own traditions, food, clothing, and holidays that make their culture unique. There are also over 100 different languages spoken in AAPI communities, and a lot of people can speak more than one language. That shows how diverse and rich cultures really are. Another big thing to know is that around 66% of Asian Americans were born outside of the US, which makes them the most foreign born group in the country. When it comes to money and jobs, not everyone in the AAPI community is the same. Some families are very well off, but others struggle with poverty or finding stable jobs. It's important to not assume everyone has the same experience just because they share a cultural background. As future teachers, we should remember that students from AAPI families come from all kinds of places, speak different languages, and have different life experiences. Now I would like to ask if anyone can share an experience or knowledge about a specific AAPI culture that you know of. I would like to show you guys a clip that Netflix uploaded on YouTube about a movie called Over the Moon. It's an animated feature film rooted in Chinese folklore and traditions. In this video, they brought together families from different Asian heritage to explore and celebrate their culture. Due to time, I've edited the clip to make it shorter.
Chinese culture in general, we don't usually express ourselves through words as much, or hugs, or the act of making food is the service of love.
My favorite Korean holiday is New Year's. Wow. That's when you get to bow and then say, 새해 복 많이 받으세요.
There was a point in time when we came here to America. I was about 4 years old, and I remember just being so teased by kids at school. Any immigrant parent, you are worried for your children. So that was the day we stopped speaking Vietnamese in the household. And then it got to a point where I just completely forgot the language. But it's important because the language connects you to a country that you may have never seen and may never see.
After hearing that story in the end, it really shows how important it is for students to feel safe and accepted in the classroom. No student should feel like they have to hide their culture or stop speaking their language just to fit in. That's why it's so important for teachers to use strategies that support AAPI students. The first strategy is to make sure we have an inclusive curriculum. That means including AAPI history, stories, and holidays in what we teach. Many students never see themselves represented in books or lessons, so adding AAPI voices can help them feel seen and proud of who they are. Teachers can also invite students to share parts of their culture like food, music, or family traditions, which helps build a community. The second strategy is to avoid stereotypes. A common myth is that all AAPI students are super smart. This is called the model minority stereotype, and it can put unfair pressure on students. Not all AAPI students have the same strengths or backgrounds, so teachers should treat everyone as individuals and not assume what they can or can't do based on their race. The third strategy is to be culturally sensitive. That means learning how to say students' names correctly, respecting their pronouns, and understanding that some families might have different customs or values. If a student is dealing with racism or discrimination, teachers should make sure they feel safe and supported. Even small actions like celebrating cultural holidays or learning about students' backgrounds can go a long way in showing respect.
The model minority myth was a stereotype that the Asian American and Pacific Islander communities struggle with that states Asian Americans are all somehow wealthy, smart, and good at math or science. This stereotype is harmful to the people in the community that don't fit into the myth, that end up getting ignored and neglected by others around them. Have you experienced stereotypes against you? If so, how did you feel after being profiled? The Asian American and Pacific Islander communities struggle with social bias and stereotypes that others put on them. So a strategy they use to deal with those issues are the practices in religion and practices in mental health to improve their emotions and to feel more confident. Does anyone have a strategy or method for dealing with hurtful stereotypes?
Socioeconomic status of Asian Americans as a whole. In America, Asian Americans have a higher rate and income than other racial groups. According to data from 2018, Asian Americans had an estimated income of $87,194. This was about 20,000 more than the average American income. By groups. In America, Asian American and Pacific Islanders tend to be paid lower wages based on what Asian group they are from. Based on a study from 2019, Indian Americans made an average hourly wage of $51.19 versus Bhutanese Americans made an average hourly wage of $15.36. How can we solve this? Although there is a huge socioeconomic issue in which pay differs, the only way to solve and face this issue would be to realize that there is many groups within the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. Do Asian Americans have a higher rate in income than other racial groups? What group of Asian Americans is paid $15.36? How can we solve this issue?
This is our works cited slide, and this slide is the QR code for our booklet. We hope you have some fun playing it, and thank you so much for reviewing our presentation.